Hello and welcome to this next video on non-duality. Let's talk about dukkha today. And since we have covered in the past videos what is impermanence, non-self, and also ignorance, which is a word that I try my best to derail from the usual understanding that is stupidity or something like that, that we have this negative connotation of it. It's simply the ignoring of our true nature. And due to that is that we cause this so-called suffering. Now you see, suffering is probably another word that is too harsh in the meaning of what dukkha really means. Because dukkha in its roots is the opposite of sukha, which is where we actually derive the word sugar, and azúcar in Spanish, and sacarina. You see, all of these words are coming from sukha. So the opposite is sort of like bitter or something uncomfortable or just undesired. You see, so I actually like the word frustration. I may even call it drama, because dukkha is simply the sensation of frustration trying to do the impossible. This is all due to what we have covered already in this series, that first, everything is impermanent. So why would you want to try to hold on to something? What would that cause? Sort of frustration. Now get with the feeling of frustration, and instead of associating it with the word and the definition that we have, just try to get with the word, or the feeling rather. And this feeling is just a sensation that it's unbearable, that you can't hold on to anything. So that is the root of dukkha, or suffering. Now that is due to ignoring reality. Reality is impermanent. Also, the ignoring that we do not exist. And so we kind of create a box into which we put a lot of concepts of ourselves, judgments and so on. And this box gets filled. And then we confuse the box with all of these things as the self. And we say, well, I am that. See, you point out to the box and say, I am all of that. And so I suffer because of all these things. But the moment you realize who you are, first of all, you have to see that you don't exist. In that non-existence, all of that just fades away. It's just a mirage that happened in your view, and you can laugh. And certainly this is what happens with most people once they have a so-called satori, a sudden enlightenment, a sudden flash of light. And they see themselves and say, well, I was stupid. I'm not any of that. You see, but you had to go through the process of suffering. And suffering is, again, a needed element for us to have this cosmic drama that we are beginning to have here in the human form, as we believe that we are a separate individual that is going through life and causing all sorts of problems in the world, and all of this needs to come to an end, and we need to control it. Oh no, we need to let it go, and we need to do this. And there's a lot of we, a lot of pronouns all over the place. And due to this is that we create the drama of the world. This is the drama of life, as we believe ourselves to be something separate. But you see, the price that we pay, again, is this sensation of frustration, because trying to hold on to things with a character that doesn't exist. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because you may say, well, then the point is just not doing anything, because after all, everything is just going to change, and I'm not here to do anything. So I might as well just sit here and do nothing. Well, try as you may, that won't happen, because something is flowing through you. And you see, this is where you can fall into another sort of identity, which is, I am nothing. And so I just let my body flow through life. Because what you're actually saying is, I don't want to face anything, and I'm afraid of change. I'm afraid of being part of all of this. And you, at that point, are repressing whatever it is that you are. And you fall again into frustration or dukkha. So what do? We simply allow whatever it is that is going. Because once you know you don't exist, once you know that everything is changing, everything is in flux, then you simply allow things to happen. You don't resist. Why resist? Why try to control? Even in that aspect of you trying to control the flowing of things because, well, I don't exist. I just allow myself to be. Even there, you're trying to control. And so we fear change, we fear life at that point. And you realize that this life was meant to be played this way, and you enjoy it. You enjoy all the changes, all the drama. And it's not an enjoyment of malicious enjoyment. It's simply the enjoyment of your own being. Because your being is really what's holding everything. This is all you. When you think about it. Because after all, it's not like you don't exist and you're not here. Obviously you're here. The sense of I is here. And that I is the same as I. The same as the other person who calls himself I. So dukkha is frustration in the sense that we want to hold on to things. That we want things to remain as they are. Dukkha is a frustration that comes out of the impossibility. God pretending to be God. You cannot. God cannot pretend to be God. God pretends to be this separate thing. And when it tries to pretend to be God, it just contracts itself into this ego form, which creates more of the drama, sure. But it's an impossible thing to do, because you can't become God within God. Once you realize this, you say, well, I can't become God. I'm just this, then you are God. And so, you see, there's if you think you have it, then you don't have it. When you realize that you can't have it, then you have it. That's exactly what's happening. And at that moment, we call that release, nirvana. Relax. That moment, that sensation we call happiness, love, joy, harmony, peace, stillness, quietness. But it all comes down from the realization that there's nothing to hold on to. The self cannot get hold of itself. It is the self. So why would it try to get hold on to itself? You can't. Trying to chase your own shadow, what will happen? You can't. You just sit there and watch it and say, this is my shadow. This is what it is. It's all well. But like I said in the last video, we have to create all this world, this multiplicity of people. And now when you see everybody, you just see a sea of confusion in their minds. But behind them, it's you. It's the same I. But thanks to them is that we have this variety of things in the world. But the key moment is when you see the impossibility of trying to exacerbate this self. And you surrender. This is the great surrendering. You surrender everything that you think you are to the flow of life. And at that moment, you're liberated. So the next video is going to continue these concepts about the philosophical view of non-duality, at least as it's seen in the East. I want to emphasize that non-duality, even though it is attributed a lot to it in the East, is not something that is completely of the East, and that we're trying to study something that, I don't know, whatever. I hear all kinds of comments and rejections about non-duality because it's just a religion of the East. It's not. Non-duality is your nature. Non-duality is the essence of reality. So studying how our ancestors came to these realizations and these concepts is very useful for us, because as we try to make sense of reality and we try to release all this tension of the separate self, it does come in handy. So that's my purpose with this series, and I'll keep talking about it. We're getting close to the Four Noble Truths, which, if you have been paying attention, I have been mentioning them here. So we're going to get into that. And other things, there's so much to philosophize about this. And I think this is a very practical means to understand our own self, because we don't have to resort to any complex metaphysical understandings or light and vibrations and all of this, but just pure experience, which I think is more valuable. I know it's more valuable than anything else. The rest is just going to confuse you more. And it's fun to play with, but not when looking to the self. When looking to the self, you have to divest yourself from everything that you think you know. So with that, I come to the end of the video. Thank you, as always, for watching and for being part of this. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next video.